Okay, fifth grade. So very quickly in reading comp, we have two different things we need to discuss today. The first thing we need to discuss is where we're at with the secret garden. And the second thing we need to discuss is your book report. Okay? So now you have finished the secret garden. Okay? So remember today's reading comprehension time you are going to spend making sure your spiral is completely ready for the study session next week, and your study guide is also completely ready for the study session. Okay, the study guide is due next Thursday. Your journal is also due next Thursday. They must both have my signature on them to have part in our study session, which you will want to have part in. Okay? So that's what we're going to do today during reading comprehension. The second thing that we need to discuss is your book report. Okay? So I'm going to pass out your packet. Put your name at the top. Can you pass one back to Maggie, please? Acton, you and Ava. Charlotte, you and Christian. Okay. All right. There is a spot for your name. Please put your name. Then, if you notice in the corner, it says due Tuesday, December 15th. That is over a full month to do this project. Okay? So you have over a month to do this project. Do not leave it till the last minute. I will preface this by saying this is a very easy book report. Okay, so you are going to be creating a story quilt. Okay, a quilt is a patchwork blanket, right? So if you look at number 1, under directions, it says to find a book of historical fiction that interests you. A historical fiction book is a different type of book than what we've done in the past on our book reports. Historical fiction is a fiction or fake story that is based on events in history. A historical fiction. So books like Dear America. Okay? I Survived. Okay? There are a lot of different historical fiction books that you could choose. If you have a question whether your book is appropriate, if your book classifies as a historical fiction, just let us know and we'll look at it and let you know. Okay? Historical fiction is a fake book, but it's based on actual events in history. Okay? All right. You are going to get a poster board, and typically the thicker foam board is better for this project, okay? But it's not required. You do not have to cut your poster board into a square, okay? It's a rectangle, so you can go ahead and use that shape as a rectangle. But you're going to divide the rectangle into 9 equal sections, okay? 9 equal sections. So by doing that, you will have 9 squares, okay? The squares have something very particular that must be in each square, okay? So it says on number 3 to look through your book to help you remember objects that were important in the story. These objects should represent something specific or significant, like a person or an event. List at least 6 of them on the lines below. You do not have to do this. This is just a plan sheet. I don't need this paper back. Then look at number 4. It says to choose 4 objects from the list that you want to include in your quilt. Sketch each object in the box below. Again, you don't have to do that. This is just a plan sheet. You will, however, put those 4 objects on the board. Okay? Number 5 says to write a few sentences explaining why each object is important. Number 6 is where you need to start paying close attention. It says to locate the 4 squares in the corners of the quilt. Okay, the corner squares. That's pretty easy. Then it says to draw one object in each square. You do not have to draw, you can create. Okay, it can be three-dimensional. Here we have a cross, we have a Holy Bible, we have coins, and we have an ink stain with a smudge. Okay, so it says to leave room in the square to copy your sentences about the object. Okay, so you put the object and then you're going to tell me why it's important in a few sentences. Okay, then it says to write the title and author of the book in the center square. That's number 7. And number 8 says cut wrapping paper into squares that are the same size as those on the quilt. Glue a wrapping paper square to each of the blank squares, which will be this one, this one, this one, and this one. It does not have to be wrapping paper, okay? You can choose some different scrapbook paper. You could print a design. You could create a design. You could use wrapping paper, okay? So, well, it would probably need to make sense in the book that you're reading, okay? So if you're reading a story about 9/11, maybe you want to do like a design of the Twin Towers, okay? All right, so then it says to put them on the off squares. Okay, now flip back at this page. This is the rubric that Ms. Mullins and I will actually use when we are grading your book report, okay? So you're going to want to make sure that your mom or your dad can answer yes to each one of these things that are listed on the rubric, okay? So was the appropriate book selected? Did you choose 4 symbols? Did you place the squares correctly? Did you put objects on the 4 corner squares? Are there 9 equal squares on your board? Do your objects make sense and hold importance to the story? Was the title and the author on the middle square? Then the objects themselves. Are they creatively decorated, creative, or are they made? Are there at least 2 to 3 sentences description of each object? And then overall, was it neat? Did you take your time? And did you read and understand the story? Just a second, Chloe. Okay, so let's look at this book, okay? This example is called Ink on His Fingers, and it's by Vernon Lewis, okay? Here we have a cross, and it says, the cross symbolizes the faith that Hans and Gutenberg had in God. They were willing to sacrifice everything they had for God's plans, even though they didn't know how it was going to turn out. Okay? So this cross was just made of foil. Okay? You could create crosses out of a stick. Okay? You can use things in your home, in your backyard, or you could purchase things. Okay? But we would prefer that they are creative somehow. Okay? I didn't just glue a cross that I bought from Hobby Lobby on the square. Anyone can do that. Okay, now we have the Holy Bible. It says the entire book was based on the first printing of the Bible using the printing press. People during this time period thought the Bible should be handwritten instead of copied. Gutenberg and Hans believed that the printing the Bible would make it easier to share God's word. So she created a little mini Bible here. Okay, it's got pages and everything. All right. Then we've got gold coins, which were simply just pieces of paper, and she, thick paper or wood or some sort, and she spray painted them. It says money was important to Hans and Gutenberg for their work printing the Bible. Gutenberg relied on people's donations to him. In the end, Gutenberg found himself deeply in debt and sacrificed everything he had to finish the Bible. Okay? Obviously, we haven't read the book, right? Okay, the ink stains. It says, the ink stain represents the introduction of the printing press. The first printed Bible was created in this book. Hans was an apprentice for Gutenberg at his print shop. Every day, he would leave that print shop with ink on his fingers. Okay? So, you need to choose 4 objects from your story. You need to represent those 4 objects or people somehow on your corner squares. Then you need to type or nice and neatly handwrite a description of those items and why they are important in at least 2 to 3 sentences. If you have access to a computer, which you should, because Ms. Bendezu requires your assignments to be typed, we would prefer them typed. Okay? Then on your off squares, you choose something that makes sense. Okay? You can choose wrapping paper, you can use cardstock paper, you can create your own paper on the computer and print it out, as long as it makes sense. Do you have any questions? Okay, you do not have to divide your board with like a rope ribbon like she did here. You can simply divide it with a line, but if you do it with the line, it should be a nice straight line using a ruler of some sort and not a squiggly wiggly line or a line that's completely slanted. Okay, Chloe?
Could it be disasters that happened in the past?
If you have a specific book in mind, the best thing for you to do is let me look at the book. Okay, or let Ms. Mullins look at the book. Okay? Do you have any questions? Okay, so this needs to go home today. It is on our calendar, so if your parents pay any attention to our calendar, they will know that this should be coming home today. You can go to the library to check out a book. Frisco Library is open. You can go to Half Price Books, you can go to Barnes & Noble, or you can download a book on your Kindle or iPad or whatever. Okay? Your name should be on the back of the poster somewhere. Okay? Any questions about your report? Okay. All right, so Maggie, you can turn it off. By 5th grade,